Welcome back to Moment with the Mayor, your go-to for all things Fountain Valley, where each episode we explore fun, informative, and educational topics that showcase why Fountain Valley is truly a nice place to live.
Welcome to our Moment with the Mayor. I'm Fountain Valley Mayor Jim Cunneen. Great to have you with us today. I'm pleased to, for the first episode, to have our new Fire Chief Chris Nigg. And so welcome, Chief. It's great to have you here. This is a really good format for us to not only get to know the Chief better, but also to kind of share some of the themes that, as Mayor, I'm very excited to be working with city staff and the community. So, as you probably heard me say, the four pillars are really what I call bases. And so I love baseball, softball, and so what I'm calling first base is our health and fitness valley. So some of what we're going to talk about today fits in with that theme. Second base is what we call delicious nutritional foodie valley. And third base is our friendly and neighborly friendly valley. And coming home, we like to think of home base as first place. And being in a home, safety comes to mind. And really, so those themes are what we really want to capture today. And so welcome, Chief. To start, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what led you to this role as Fire Chief?
Sure. So first of all, thank you. Thanks for having me not only on the podcast and giving me the opportunity to speak to you and our great community, but also thank you for asking me to be here first. So I feel very privileged in that respect. Like you said, for those that don't know me, my name is Chris Nigg, new Fire Chief here as of January of this year, January 26th. And I come to Fountain Valley by way of the city of Laverne, where I was the Fire Chief for just shy of 5 years prior to coming here. And then prior to that, I was the Deputy Chief and Fire Marshal for the Fullerton and Brea Fire Departments for a number of years, where I worked my way up through the ranks. And then ultimately before that, I started my career at the City of San Bernardino Fire Department before that fire department went away. So my career has been diverse, and it's taken me through several operational areas, several departments, several cities, which I feel very fortunate and blessed for, because it's offered me great perspective that helps me in my decision making every single day. So I've been doing this now for about 25 years professionally as an EMS and fire professional. I'm very active, very passionate about the fire service. As you know, I'm a staunch advocate for this industry and for really public safety of all Californians. I've served in previous roles as a president of the League of Cities Fire Chiefs. I'm currently a legislative director for the California Fire Chiefs. In my previous op area, I was a president of the LA area Fire Chiefs, as well as a training group chair, foundation president, et cetera. So much like you, I take on these extra roles because I'm passionate and I believe in what we do. And it's very important to me to make sure that we are operating at the highest level possible, because at the end of the day, the fire service is a zero-fail mission. And when somebody calls for our help, we have to be able to show up and perform at the absolute peak level, regardless of what's going on around us. And so we pride ourselves on that, and I try my best to support our people and set them up for that success. Ultimately, what led to me to aspire to this position is exactly that. At least in our industry, you get involved and you take on the extra projects to better the department, to help your colleagues, all that type of stuff. And before you know it, you just kind of keep getting elevated, which is a good thing, because then you have your hand on the steering wheel a little bit more and you can be more effective in that mission-driven approach. At one point I was kind of steered towards this lead position in our industry. This is the peak of our careers as a fire chief. And I felt that I was ready. I felt that I was prepared, and I was excited to be at the helm of my previous fire department, and now ultimately Fountain Valley, because I do believe that my passion and optimism and motivations are all right in line with the mission of keeping the public safe. Fountain Valley is an amazing city. I'm so fortunate to be here, incredibly excited to be a part of this city. Thank you for having me a part of the team here. I couldn't ask to be at a better city as a fire chief at this point, so I'm having a lot of fun.
Thanks. We're thrilled to have you, Chief. So you recently stepped into this position. What has stood out to you most about the department and the community so far?
Sure. So the city of Fountain Valley is actually pretty unique. Oddly enough, everywhere I've come from at this point, we've had that wildland component. Don't have any of that here. So that's definitely a new one for me. But for a fire chief coming in, you look for support, you look for financial stability, you look for the recognition of general public, again, public safety, disaster preparedness, and all the things that indicates to me that the city is serious about keeping its residents safe and providing a high-performing fire department and EMS department. And so what I've noticed about this department is not only do we have really talented personnel in the department, really motivated, mission-driven firefighters. They deeply care about this community. I've had the opportunity actually to sit down with just about every single person on this fire department, from the lowest rank all the way to the top. It was very important to me because that's one of the benefits to being a part of a small department. You can actually take the time to do that, to sit down and get to know our people on a personal level, but then also understand what drives them and what their aspirations are. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, I've been able to determine very quickly that you have a great fire department. You have very dedicated professionals here who take what they do very seriously, and they continue to strive for better each and every day. But I will go beyond that and further support that with the fact that we are very, very busy. We're currently a 2-station fire department. Quite possibly should be a 3-station department, which we're seeking to better understand. But the reality is that the call volume for a 2-station department that's going on here is very much outside of my comfort zone. So that is one of my top priorities right now, is to make sure that we're objectively analyzing that and making sure that we are providing a sustainable but a truly efficient and high-performing model for the community.
Great. So let's kind of move into some of the top priorities. As you begin your tenure, what are your top priorities for the department in, say, the next 1 year?
Sure. Well, you know that one of our top issues, not even issue, one of the biggest topics going on right now is the relocation of Fire Station number 1. Yeah. So the city, prior to me getting here, had started that conversation. As is always the case, that's a multi-year conversation. There's a lot of planning that has to go into that, a lot of discussions, a lot of vision. And so that had been started. The city, in fact, purchased I believe a 2.5 acre parcel right near the 405 freeway. And that was ultimately deemed to be the site of this new fire station. Initially, there were some creative ideas relative to how that station would be funded, and there's been some hurdles subsequently since, and we're still clarifying what those funding mechanisms are going to look like and how they would actually fund the project. But in the meantime, there are some other operational issues that I have recently brought to light since I've been here, and those are in alignment with our not only our high call volume, but what we would call the industry standards as it relates to response times, travel distances, strategic location of our stations, and so. What I've requested and what we're ultimately moving forward with is what we call a standards of cover assessment and a community risk assessment to ultimately determine what the risk level is of the city and what the big target hazards are of the city and really what the biggest threats are to the community. And subsequent to that, is the Fountain Valley Fire Department effectively serving that threat level, not only now but into the future with incoming development, et cetera, right? And so ultimately, once we get that objective analysis back in roughly 6 to 8 months, then we can start to lay out the foundation of that vision moving forward. And ultimately, this current parcel that we have and the vision for the station that was already laid out, and quite frankly, even a further discussion about a 3-station future. And why that's important is because if we do need to aspire to a 3-station model, then we need to make sure that this parcel and this station that was originally designed and envisioned would be in alignment with that 3-station model. Because prior to right now where we sit, 3 stations wasn't necessarily part of the conversation. So we're doing our due diligence, we're doing our homework, we're going to do that analytical review so that everybody who has to make those decisions, such as yourself, has all of the information in front of you to make that smart decision.
That's great. And as we like to say in Fountain Valley, we place a premium on planning. And so a lot of those ideas, Chief, I think resonate with just kind of our themes of looking at our city with a long-term focus, recognizing current and future needs. So let's talk about community impact. How do you see the fire department continuing to serve and connect with the community beyond emergency response?
When the public thinks about the fire department, the first thing that comes to mind is the big red fire engine going down the road, right? Which is obviously arguably 90% of what we do. What a lot of people don't see behind the scenes is a lot of the what we dub now a community risk reduction.
Risk reduction.
Correct. And holistically speaking, that is everything from our fire prevention inspections to make sure that fire codes being applied, that we're reducing the potential for fire, and even if fires do start, how big they might be, right? Whether that's via sprinklers or reducing fuel loading or hazardous materials that are being stored, et cetera, on and on. But beyond that, like I mentioned in my previous agencies, the wildfire setting and defensible space and fuel management and those types of things. But here in our city, we're still going to worry about floods. We're going to worry about earthquakes. We're going to worry about any type of other extreme weather events. Sheer population density, right? And being able to keep up with the demand for service, which is ever growing. And we're continuing to see annual increases in that, right? So every city is really by statute required to have current emergency operations plans in place, hazard mitigation plans in place, and have those incorporated into the city's general plan. And those are ongoing dynamic plans that we need to ensure are in place, and so that we're prepared. And so that when these things happen, we're not building that plane as we're flying it, right? We've got the plans in place. We have our emergency operations center ready to go. Our entire team of city employees, because as public servants, we are civil disaster service workers. And so we are required by law to function in that capacity when there's a large scale disaster. But obviously that takes a whole lot of planning and a whole lot of coordination and frankly practice. So, there's requirements for us to do drills throughout the year and make sure that we are comprehensively prepared. So that's what the fire department is doing behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize. There is a whole component of the fire service that is trying to stop the emergencies before they happen. And that even includes on the medical side too, right? We offer, hands-free CPR classes or normal CPR classes, general first aid classes, or just information out there about healthier living, like you mentioned. And so that is a big focus of the fire service in this day and age, and something that I believe in very passionately. And one of my priorities is to bolster our community risk reduction more holistically moving forward.
Okay, well, we touched on Fire Station 1 renovation. One of the major efforts underway is really focused on that relocation. Can you give us a quick overview of what this project entails and why it's important?
Sure. So I'm gonna try and keep that brief because there's a lot of details going on there. First and foremost, what's happening right now, like I mentioned, is this the study that we're commissioning as we speak. So that'll be that standards of coverage, which will deep dive into our deployment, but then also the community risk assessment, which ultimately puts that risk analysis over our city, and then we apply to our deployment. And then second to all of that will be a strategic plan to aspire to whatever recommendations come out of that. So once we better understand exactly what that looks like, then we can say, okay, this is the right location for this fire station, and or yes, but it needs to be in conjunction with this, right? And then once we know those logistics, then we'll start talking about the funding mechanisms. So we've been very fortunate with Congressmember Tran, who's been able to forward $2 million towards this effort, and which we're working through how that will be most effectively spent right now. And I know that there's been other efforts by some of our other local elected officials as well. But by and large, this project is very, very supported by our local elected officials, and that's really appreciated. As far as the funding of the station goes, the rest of the funding of the station goes, there are some potential public-private partnerships that were being considered right now, much along the lines of some marketing billboards along the 405 corridor, which would generate a significant amount of revenue for the city, and that would be a big funding component for the station. A lot of details to be worked out there still, sure. But that is something, stay tuned. But if that comes to fruition, that will be amazing. And then anything that would be remaining from that point forward, I would leave to our great finance team to navigate how the community would like to finish financing the rest of the fire station.
That's great. I think that's the theme is we're looking at this from all angles, and funding the good news is there has been support from our Congress, local congressmen, and timeline and all of the benefits that will flow from that. We will be talking quite a bit about that in the upcoming months and maybe in the next couple of years. So really appreciate that. Why don't we turn a little corner and talk about feasibility study. And there's also a feasibility study. You touched on it. Maybe we can just revisit what is the goal of that study and how will that shape the decisions in the department from your viewpoint?
So, the first thing is the call volume, right? That high call volume. And so for me as a fire chief, certainly a brand new incoming fire chief, I need to really at a granular level understand why is our call volume this high? Where are our calls coming from primarily? What types of calls are we running? How long are we spending on these calls? Unit hour utilization is what we call that. And
Unit hour
utilization. So where's our crews all day at any given moment? What are they doing? How long are they spending on any given call? How long are they being held at the hospitals? How long is that traveling from one call to the other? Right now, both of our stations are on the extreme opposite ends of the city, as opposed to having one that's centrally located or, some other situation thereof. And so it helps me better understand truly what's going on in the day-to-day with the department. In addition to that, what are we fully prepared to handle internally, whether it's significant traffic collisions to a hazardous materials response. So as a two-station department, potentially a third down the road, we are very reliant on our automatic aid partners. So the Orange County operational area works very well together, and there's a very comprehensive auto aid agreement in place that leverages technology to ensure closest unit response at any given moment, which is genuinely the best service to the public, right? Because when you're having that life-threatening emergency or fire or whatever it is, you kind of really don't care what it says on the side of the door. You just want to make sure you get that help, right? So that's a really good practice that's in place here in Orange County. But beyond even that, we have great working relationships with our neighbors, with the Huntington Beach Fire Department, with the Orange County Fire Authority, Costa Mesa Fire Department, as well as personal relationships with me and those fire chiefs as well. And that just goes to further substantiate how well your fire departments and your public servants are working together to achieve that mission, right? And so that also plays into this study that we're going to do, right? Because we need to make sure that not only is that auto aid working, but also that there's not too much of an inequity in either way, because at the end of the day, the taxpayers for those communities and our taxpayers pay for our resources. And so we need to make sure that, we're not going into another city 6 times as much as they're coming into our city, or vice versa. And it's okay to have that those ebbs and flows, but when there's a clear inequity because of one certain location, then we have to navigate some business rules or make sure that we balance that out a little bit. But by and large, it works out very well. And so that study will get into a lot of those weeds. It will also evaluate our stations, our infrastructure, our equipment, and really everything that is the fire department to make sure that from top to bottom, we are fully prepared to respond to anything at any given moment within this community. We don't have an urban search and rescue team. We don't have a hazardous materials response team. We don't have arson investigators. And so we are reliant on our partner agencies for those resources. And that's why we have a good working relationship and auto aid and or mutual aid arrangement with those agencies. So it'll get into all of those details.
That's great, Chief. And talking about our new ambulance program, will that be included in the study? I know it's a brand new, we're going to roll it out later this year. Maybe as we kind of wrap up this moment with the mayor, we can sort of finish with the ambulance program update, and then maybe just some of your kind of final thoughts on the Fountain Valley Fire Department and your experience here so far.
So the ambulance program, what an amazing time to come into this fire department. Anytime an agency is standing up its own ambulance transport program is something to be celebrated. I've educated you guys a little bit on what we call 201 rights, which is fleeting rights that cities have, and as long as they've had them since the 80s. you protect them with everything that you can, because it allows you to basically have the control over those transport rights. And at the end of the day, what that means for our residents is it's your Fountain Valley firefighters coming to see you and handle that call from start to finish all the way to the hospital. We're not handing you off to any other agency, right? So there's a level of customer service there and pride and professionalism that's a really big deal to us, which ultimately our community benefits from. So really, really great achievement that the Fountain Valley Fire Department has almost gotten across the finish line. We anticipate having that program up and running by the end of this year. Fall, I believe November at the latest. There's a whole lot of steps that we have to get through before that, and we are actively navigating all of that right now. But that will be a very, very exciting time, not only for the city, but also for the fire department. I don't foresee any challenges related to such. Some of the issues around the fire station have been centered around the ambulance program because logistically speaking, we really don't have anywhere to park them in one of the fire stations, actually both the fire stations. So there will have to be some logistical changes that we navigate there, but it's all good stuff. At the end of the day, this department is evolving, modernizing, which I'm really excited to be a part of. Like I mentioned before, we have really great firefighters that are excited for what's on the horizon. And so by and large, your fire department is prepared to move forward and do so with pride and professionalism. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, we really appreciate your time, Chief. I hope that was a glimpse into our great Fountain Valley Fire Department. This has been a moment with the mayor. We could talk a long time on these subjects, and I'm sure we will. But for now, we're happy that you're able to join for my first moment with the mayor. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time when we have another moment with the mayor.
Thanks for tuning in to Moment with the Mayor. If you'd like to be a guest or have a topic you'd like covered, email us at fvproud@fountainvalley.gov.